All right, so good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. so we can go ahead and get started. I told Mr. Jordan you guys had such a quick and efficient meeting the last time. I feel like I'm the holdup, so I'm going to try to move quick tonight for y'all. We want to say first, welcome to everyone as we call the meeting to order, and Mr. Crick is doing our roll call. Before we get started, did everyone get a chance to see, or has everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda? Yes, great. Okay. Is there, or may I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
All right.
Motion.
Okay. I have a motion by
Second.
Cecilia. I have a second. I'm going to go with Pastor Jeffries first, since that's the first voice I heard. I got a third from Mr. Jordan. All right. Perfect. All in favor, let it be known by show of hands. You can just show your hand. I can see everyone on the screen. Perfect. And that is unanimous. So we'll accept the agenda as it's printed. Tonight, we want to recognize our one visitor this evening, and that is Miss Jennifer Moon. We're so happy to have her. Miss Moon is a gifted teacher in the building who will be joining the LSGT for the 21-22 year. So as other individuals are rolling off, we have people that are rolling on. So we're really excited to have Miss Moon with us tonight. She's joining us as a visitor just to kind of see how things operate in the realm of LSGT. And I was able to invite the other teacher that will be joining us. I'm not sure if she can make it tonight. However, the parents that will be joining us, I don't have their contact information. So I reached out to get their contact information and I was unable to receive it in time. But I will reach out to them to allow them make sure they have the links they can view the meetings. I just wanted them to have a feel for how the meetings go, and we will welcome them at a later date. Okay, so we're going to move right along, and we will start with the principal updates. I wanted to give you guys a few updates as we're wrapping up the year. This would be our official last meeting, and I want to say thank you for your hard work and your dedication. You have done a lot this year. This has been a very different year, and it's been different because of the pandemic. Because of how schools have shifted. And one of the things that I've been telling teachers as we've been doing summative conferences is, we expect children to be resilient and to be able to bounce back and do so many different things. Oh, they'll get it. They'll get over it. They'll move. But we don't hold ourselves to those same expectations. And this pandemic has forced us to be more adaptable, more flexible than we've ever been. And I've told some of the teachers we've learned some resiliency within us that we didn't even know we had. And so it's really great to think about those things and then pull out those positives from the year. But this committee has been very instrumental in making some things happen for the good of learning this year, starting with the LSGT grant. Approving the purchases that we needed to do virtual school from the beginning, including those backpacks, and really and truly giving every child a backpack filled with all the needed supplies, the whiteboards, and other things that this committee approved. Those children are still carrying those backpacks. So it's been so cool to watch them. They didn't go to the store and buy new backpacks. They came with those same Timothy backpacks because they love them. Being able to supply the teachers with laptop stands has been so essential, and our Leap for Literacy project. So you have done so many things this year, and I want to thank the committee as a whole for your work. So next year, as Mr. Jordan told you at the last meeting, we will be going face to face as a school district. That is for all students. I do want to offer a point of clarification. I think I may have given Mr. Jordan some information that might have confused you all, and that is we are not offering a virtual option for elementary students. There will be a virtual option. However, it's only for a secondary, which includes like your middle and high school. But not, and specifically high school. I'm not even sure about middle. And since I don't work in that realm, I really can't answer that question. However, I can tell you there will not be a virtual option for elementary next year. And so I haven't had any direct questions about virtual just yet. I know a few teachers have had questions about virtual for next year, and their answers have been just that there is no elementary option. However, there are other programs that are out there that offer virtual schooling, and so we are directing people to do their research to find a program that's the best fit for them. However, as a district, we are going back face to face for all of our students. Does anyone have any questions about that for the coming year?
Will there be ASP next year?
Great question. So the goal is, yes, to have after school program running again. However, those all the backdoor pieces are being put in the works right now. So they're looking at what that looks like for next year, and making sure that we are able to staff the programs and be ready to roll. But the goal is, yes. I can't tell you if it's going to start immediately when school begins, but that is definitely the goal. Any other questions?
I have a question. Has there been any district conversation about, um, I'm not actually sure whether it's a district-wide decision or a statewide decision, about requiring or anything similar, vaccinations for teachers and staff?
As of right now, there have not been any discussions about making it a requirement, because it is still an individual right. And so that would have to be something that I don't think that's something the district can actually do. I think that would be something that, that would come down from somebody way above the district level. However, we have, at a minimum 80% of our staff vaccinated. Over 1,400 employees were vaccinated throughout the school district, and so within our own building at a minimum 80%. I don't have the exact numbers just because a lot of people went through the other outside channels. So I know who was vaccinated through Clark County, but not outside of Clark County. So we had a few teachers that gotten vaccinated in other ways. But as of right now, there is no mandate or anything that will require a vaccination.
Okay, I was thinking along the lines of, I mean, there are other cursory standard vaccinations required to be a teacher. Um, I mean, lots of jobs, like don't the like typical uh, pertussis, diphtheria, blah, blah, blah. All right, probably not diphtheria. Pertussis. Am I wrong? Am I making this up?
Tdap is all of that.
Say that again.
The Tdap shot. That's
Yes.
like
Yes, Tdap has all of those, including diphtheria. I wasn't sure if adults got Tdap boosters or just tetanus boosters and pertussis boosters. Anyway, I thought, and maybe I'm just talking out of my ear, that school staff were required, like many lines of work, to have like a normal battery of vaccinations. Is that not the case?
Not to my knowledge, but let me check with our nurse on that. I have to tell you the very last time that I received any additional vaccines, and that was when I did my specialist program at Georgia State, and so of course that was way after I had been teaching, and they did not require they required it because I would be on the college campus, which kind of blew my mind because I was like, wait a minute, you know how old I am? But I did have to get some boosters at that point. However, I'm not clear on whether or not there is any type of requirement. That's something I would have to double check on. Are there any other questions? I'll be sure to double check that answer and make sure I email the group so that you can have an answer on that as well.
Thank you.
Um,
I know it's going to be a sticky, I mean, I've already heard from other parents like being concerned, like obviously we want to protect people's health privacy, but then also parents being concerned about children not being old enough to be vaccinated and being in a classroom with an unvaccinated adult who could be vaccinated. It's sticky and we're all going to have to figure this out together. So
No, you're very right. And I will tell you, even with children, we have a number of students. It's a small number, but we have a number of students who don't get vaccines. And so that's every year, and that still happens due to whatever reasons, whether they be religious reasons or anything. But there are a number of children that have vaccines available that choose parents who choose not to vaccinate their children, and they have to have a letter on file, stating that they're not vaccinating their children. So I'll definitely check, but I don't think there's going to be anything. I can't imagine any way of requiring that at this time. But I'm happy to check, and then I'll be sure I email the group for you. So the other thing that I wanted to follow up with is some student data. But before I do that, I'm going to jump down to the Leap for Literacy project because our project is now complete and we're really excited. I will tell you, the teachers and the kids oops, had a really great time with making sure the kids were staying on top of their writing and looking at their stories and expanding their stories and making them bigger and greater. The kids had so much fun. Even when they turned their books in, they were trying to find out when they were getting them back because they really wanted their books back. We asked every grade level, we asked every homeroom to submit winners, a classroom winner. And at every grade level, besides kindergarten, we now have, because of virtual classes, 6 classes at every grade level. So that gave us 6 winners per grade level, with the exception of kinder, which gave us 5. And then we took those grade level winners and narrowed them down to a K2 category and a 3-5 category, and then picked winners from that category. We chose 8 books that were sent forward to Mr. Tucker and his team, and we had a combination of in-house and district level people helping to judge those. And then we pushed those out to his team and they chose our winners. So we are really, really pleased and excited. We announced the winners with Mr. Tucker last week, I think it was. Was it last week, you guys? Yes. And we had a big Zoom call. So all the kids got to log in with their teachers. And he answered so many questions. I got tickled because he was answering so many questions. He wanted to answer everybody's question. But the kids really enjoyed talking to him. And he announced our winners and showed their books. So our K2 winner is Carmelo. He's a first grader in Miss Thompson Rudd's class. He is so excited about him having his book published. His book was about his new pet, his pet dog, and the book is about how big the puppy is. So in the book, he has pictures of himself very tiny and this really huge, like overgrown, like puppy that is supposed to be like bigger than life, because to him that's how big the puppy looks, and he talks about all the things that his puppy does. It was such a well written book, and it was a great selection. Our 3-5 winner was Avery Lewis. And Miss Lewis is a 5th grader in Miss Hart's class. And she actually wrote a book called March, March, March. Her book was about protesting. Very appropriate during this time, but from a different angle. So she wrote about her parents and wanting to be a part, the character wanted to be a part of a protest, but not knowing what to do or how to, become engaged, and getting to the protest and becoming afraid because of seeing like all the people and the police cars, and her drawings were so huge. And then her mom having a conversation with her about how Dr. King marched, and she actually took that story and turned it into a dream that the character has, and the character wakes up in the middle of the night and draws a picture of herself with Dr. King, and explaining how she is able to make a change by using her voice. It was really huge for a 5th grader, but it was such an amazing story. So her story will be published. And then we have some honorable mentions. So we have 2 kids who will have their books. They will go on and have their books read live on Mr. Tucker's YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel and an Instagram channel that he promotes children and their readings. So they're going to get to come on live and read their stories. One is a 2nd grader who is going to be reading his story about space. Very beautifully written, elaborate drawings in the book about space and rockets and the names of planets, and just a really cool story. And the other is a kindergartner who wrote a story about going to the beauty shop. And it's the cutest book about her experience going to the beauty shop and getting her hair done. So we're really excited that we have so much representation, a kindergartner, a 1st grader, a 2nd grader, a 5th grader, who will have either their stories published or have them mentioned through Mr. Tucker's Leap for Literacy project. But again, that was made possible through you all. And I've had a few teachers already ask, will we do this again, next year, because the kids really enjoyed it. I'm happy to pause for a moment. If there's anything that any of the teachers on the line would like to add about the stories, feel free to do so now.
I'd love to see a picture of the published book, or if you take pictures, you could maybe email it to us, because I think it's such a worthwhile project.
We definitely will, because we will be having a book signing, if you will, for the kids, and we're actually going to have copies of the books placed in our school library. So that's really exciting as well.
I was involved in a project similar where they gave kids a camera to take pictures and then write stories about them.
That is really cool. Yeah, and the kids loved it. I think we saw some awesome writing, really, really great writing. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on if no one else has anything to share about the Leap for Literacy project. Right now, the books are beginning the publishing stage. I did get an email last week about Carmelo's book, The First Grader and His Giant Puppy. The illustrator had already started working on the illustrations for his puppy. So watching that book begin to come to life has been really, really amazing. So I wanted to share some data with you all this evening, just to kind of show you where we've gone, how we've grown over the course of the year. This every year we set academic goals, and we set them based on student achievement to see what can we do in terms of our instructional practices that will help us to move students, and help them to progress and become better academic students, right? So this year we didn't really set goals based on any data, because we ended the year not having spring data, and we started the year not having fall data. And so when by the time we got the data going, kids were at home already. It was so many things happening. But I told the staff that my goal was for us to provide as much of a learning opportunity as we possibly could, to make sure we provided experiences that really reached our students, and to make sure that we saw them moving along. And I'm happy to say that although we had a really hard year, our data shows that our students have progressed. We don't have a large group of kids that have lost ground. We don't have a large group of kids that were stagnant. And I'm really happy to say that, because I've been fighting all year, telling people, not necessarily people in the building, but just people in general, the research is pointing us in the wrong direction. Our kids are not going to be so far behind. They're not losing so much. They're really gaining new skills. And I'm really pleased to see that they have gained those new skills. So I'm going to share some data with you now so that you can kind of see what those new skills look like. So here is, excuse me. Here is this is some iReady data. iReady is a program that we use to test our students, and we test them in reading and math 3 times a year, in the fall, winter, and in the spring. We look at their growth to see how they're progressing. Of course, the standards that the data that we're using is based on standards, and that is driving us back to our instruction, which is how the teachers plan instruction to meet the needs of the students. So we're taking a look at data that's specific to Timothy. So right here, you see all of the Timothy Road has been selected. We're looking right now at all of our students. And so just looking in general at everyone, we had about 451 students that took the assessment. The assessment is administered to kindergarten through 5th graders. And the assessment adjusts with the students. So as they're getting problems right, then the test becomes a little bit more difficult. As they're getting them wrong, it begins to get a little bit easier, just to find the right fit for their performance, and allows teachers to make instructional decisions based on the data. So right over here on the left-hand side, this is our fall fall to winter to spring relative placement comparison, and this is where the most information is kept. So if you look in the fall, you have these colors: red, orange, green, and blue. The red indicates students that are 2 or more levels below grade level. Okay. The orange indicates the amount of students that are 1 level below where they should be. The green means they're on grade level, and the blue is above. One of the things I want you to take note of is how the red continued to shrink as the year progressed. And that's what we want to see. The other thing I want you to take note of is the opposite end, how the blue continues to increase, because it's great to see the kids performing above grade level as well. If you take a look here, looking at just where we are, as a school, right in here in the spring, in the fall, we started off with about 41.7% of our students right on level. And this data was really funny because in some instances, especially in our lower grades, not so much in our upper grades, but in our lower grades, we had more parents helping because this was administered to students during virtual time, and we had parents helping at home. We tried to tell them, oh, let them assess, do the assessment by themselves so we can kind of see where they really are. But we noticed that we had, a few more parents helping at home, which kind of, gave us some false data, if you will. But even still, it just showed us where we were as a school. When we look at our orange data, where kids were a level below where they needed to be, we started off with about 38.8%, so 39%, if you will. And that data just tells us these are the kids that are performing just below that point, and these are the kids that we really want to push into the green. Now, when we go up the ladder, looking at our winter scores, you'll see we began to increase to 51.6. And then by the time we got to spring, 53% of our students were on level, with 7.9 or 8% of them above level. And again, that red number shrinking as we went up. This data I also have by grade level. And so what we do with it by grade level is we break it down and show it to our grade level teams and let them look specifically at the data to determine, number one, who does this data represent? Because who is very important. Then we can look at, for example, if a child fell in this 12.8% range, is this a student who has missed a lot of days of school? Did they lose instruction, and which is why they may have performed this way? Is this a student who receives special education services and they're already performing below grade level, but they're being tested on grade level standards? And those are the questions we ask to kind of determine where do we take them next. It doesn't mean that we say, oh, well, they missed some days. That's why they perform that way. What it means is this child missed so many days of instruction. And so to a parent, I can say, here's where I want them to be, but here is where they are. And this is how many days of instruction they've missed. This is how many hours that is. And these are the main content areas we really want to focus on. So this data that I'm showing you now is all about reading only. This is our reading data. And again, it gets broken down even further as we go along. But this is the meat of the data, looking at the whole school. Do you have any questions about what you see over here on this left-hand side?
Dr. Worthy, how does this compare to an average school year?
That's a great question. And so we would like, in an average school year with the kids being face to face, what we would have seen is probably this red number being a lot less than it is. Especially starting in the fall, we might have seen the same information here or a little bit more even. We would have seen this number a lot less than it is, because we're already noticing with the amount of time that we spent face to face. But every time we got face to face with our kids, our numbers increased and got better. And so we definitely realized that face to face learning is what is needed. But in an average school year, these numbers would have been much higher. I'll also tell you, these are the numbers right in here. These are the numbers that we look at when we start targeting students, specifically like for our summer program, early intervention programs like EIP. We look at the red, but we also look at the orange to determine what other kind of services can we provide to these students that will help get them back into the green. Because again, the goal is not to say, I got to get everybody on level. Of course, we want everybody on level, but the goal is to make sure everyone is moving, that they're not stagnant. And when they take this test, let's say a student starts here in the red, they may not be in the green by the end of the school year, but they should be closer to the orange or near the other end of the orange. And that is good growth because we want to see them making at least a year's worth of growth.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Let me show you the math data. So I'm just going to change this link here. At least I'm going to try to. Oh, duh, it was sitting at the top. I'm sorry. As you can see, I can look at this for the entire district as well. All right. So back to Timothy. Let's take a look at what that looks like for math. So look at our math data. You see the numbers in red are much, much higher. You see this?
You're at all schools, not just.
Oops. Thank you. It's so finicky. Changed it
Good
before
job,
I
Mr. Crook.
changed it before I got there.
Try to stay on things, man.
Well, that looks a lot better. Thank you. All right. Well, at least you can see what that looked like for the district compared to us, right?
I have to say that was enlightening.
Right. So here we are for math. And again, you see the numbers. Again, they look kind of similar, but the red block is still very large in the fall, 14%. We had 50%, almost 51% that were in the orange in the fall and 34% in the green and a sliver of blue down here. That's 1%. But then by the time we got to spring, we were at 53.8% of our students on level. Remember that this is the year that 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders were introduced to a new math curriculum resource, the Eureka Math resource, which is brand new to our teachers. However, it was the perfect year to try this new resource and to get our kids, get their feet wet in trying something new and a different way of thinking. Initially, it was a really hard shift for our teachers because it's a mindset change. However, the students kind of grasp it pretty quickly just because of the way the problems were set up, the way the thinking is set up. This Eureka Math program is different from the way we've typically done math because it doesn't just follow the problem set of how to get there, but it shows you why you're doing what you're doing to get there. So it really is higher order thinking for our students.
And were the K through 2nd students introduced to it last year?
Yes. And so they were introduced partially. So last year, part of the resource was purchased for K2, but the full curriculum was adopted for K5 this year. So last year, K2 had some pieces of it, but they didn't have the trainings and everything that went with it until the district adopted the entire curriculum. We are anxious to see how our 2nd graders from this year, well, actually our 3rd graders this year will do next year in 4th grade because they will be the ones that will have had 2 straight years of it. And our kindergartners who are introduced, my goodness, the things that they can do and what they recognize is just so amazing. They really do blow my mind.
What did you say the name of the program was?
Eureka.
That's what I thought you said. I'm going to look it up.
Yes, please do. And if any of the teachers on the call have anything to add that I may be missing, please feel free to jump in. And just because, Ms. Ball was just saying, wow, that was enlightening, I'll just show you very quickly how we compare to the district as a whole. So you can see those numbers. As you look at everyone, Timothy is still performing very well. Our teachers do a really great job. It doesn't mean the district as a whole is not performing, but it does mean that we're all still learning something new. We have a new curriculum resource in math, and everyone is trying to implement it in different ways. And I will tell you, everyone had different problems during the pandemic. We had problems with students that were absent. Some people had absences that were much higher than ours. And high is relative because we this year we had students who missed upwards of 50 days of school because they were not logging in or they were just not staying on, and that makes a big difference in their learning. And I'll just flip back over for the reading so you can see what that looks like for all schools as well.
Ken, is there a way to see this data broken down, Timothy, versus the entire group of elementary schools in the district? Or, I mean, is this data the entire K through 12?
Yeah, yes. So if you look down here, this is everybody. And then here's a placement by school. And here we are.
That's a pretty compelling chart.
Yeah, it looks
That's
like
really-
Timothy's doing very well.
Mhm.
I'm also seeing that the economic breakdown is also clear.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to point out. That's why it's important to know who is this data and not just what the data says. You have to know who it is and what's behind the data. Numbers are one thing, but knowing the students is a totally different story.
So Vera, Chase, Timothy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. So I just wanted to make sure I was able to show you some data so you can see what the teachers in the building have been doing. As you can tell, they have been working really hard. And as I've been having end of the year conferences with them, Ms. Hill and I, my assistant principal, we've been meeting one-on-one with teachers and really highlighting the student growth, because even though we didn't set those academic goals, it's really important to think about the fact that our kids did not lose ground. They didn't become stagnant. They made growth. It's not the growth they would have made in a typical year, but of course this wasn't a typical year. So it's really important to understand who the data belongs to, where, even drilling down in a classroom. If any of my teachers on this call even were to drill down to their specific classrooms, they could look at the students and say, you know what, and they can speak to their data. So and so, Mary comes to class every single day, but she struggles in this instance. I have more data to support it. Or such and such has missed so many days of school. They miss 3 days a week. Like regularly, and I just don't know how to reach them. So we have to know who the data represents, and that's for all schools, because again, the data doesn't in any way indicate that a school is low performing or they're not performing. You have to look at who is behind that data to determine what's moving. And honestly, just like our data would look different in a different year, these other schools, their data would look different in a different year as well. And so we all have to consider those things. So the only thing that I have left is upcoming events. End of the year awards are coming up, and we are going to be streaming those for parents. And in many instances, our moving on ceremony for our fifth graders is happening on Thursday. Which is the last day of school. It's a really high time for our fifth graders. We try to make it as special as possible. We typically invite parents to come, but due to safety protocols, we are not inviting parents this year so that we can stay in the building. We had the opportunity to invite parents, but we would have had to have it outside. And in the event there is rain, we don't want to have to make the call. Well, now it's raining, you can't come inside. So we just decided that we're just going to have it inside and try to stream it for our parents instead. We do a big day for our fifth graders. So they will have, they're moving on. They're going to do their final walk in the hallways. That'll be in the mornings. And the younger kids line the halls. They have signs and they're cheering for them. And it's really special. And then we usually invite the high school seniors that have come through Timothy to come and lead the walk. But again, this year we won't invite them. I am reaching out to them to see if they'll do videos for our fifth graders. in their caps and gowns, just to, so they can see those kids that have actually come through Timothy. And then they'll have their ceremony. They'll have a luncheon that we're going to have semi-catered for them. We're going to have it brought in from Chick-fil-A. And then they are going to have an auction. And so our auction is the big event. So we have partners and parents who donate these really awesome items every year. And if any of you want to donate, you're welcome to. But they donate anything from as big as bicycles and computers and TVs to as small as water guns and gift cards, or what really sells are those giant jars of candy from Sam's. Like those are hot items. So those types of things. And the kids love it. It's a wonderful event.
So
Sorry, I
the
had to cough.
kids bid money on these things?
So throughout the year, the kids have been earning what we call dojo points for, different things across the school behavior by showing their pride. And remember, our pride matrix stands for being patient, respectful, independent, determined, and encouraging. So by showing those different attributes and completing work and just being kindly and showing yourself friendly, being kind and showing yourself friendly, they actually get dojo points. And so they get to use their dojo points and use those to bid on. But we have bidding paddles that they use, and we typically invite an auctioneer, and he comes and talks real fast, and we move those items. So it's a whole lot of fun.
I didn't think it could be money.
If we want to donate something, when's the deadline for donating?
Preferably before Thursday, because Thursday is the day. So yeah, anytime before Thursday. Thank you so much. All right. So I do have let's see. Staffing, our hires are partially complete. We are just about done with our homeroom hires, and we have some paraprofessionals that we will be hiring, posting jobs for. So we're excited about that. We have we have a few paraprofessionals that have actually gotten teaching jobs. So we're really celebrating them. We're excited about that. One in our building and one that's actually going to be teaching at the high school level. So we're always trying to motivate and push people to go above and beyond. And then in terms of the staffing, we'll be totally wrapped up. I'm hoping by the end of next week, but definitely before, well, I won't say before I leave for break, because there is no break really, but it'll be wrapped up soon. Yes.
I'm sorry, it's always me.
You're good.
Did they give you, I know we talked about this at the beginning of the academic year, but are they allowing you to hire based on normal numbers or based on COVID numbers?
Thank you for that question. So the district has decided to allow us to keep our staffing intact as it is. So we're not losing anybody, which is great. Because as you can see from our data, we have about 400 and some odd kids in our building. Typically, usually is knocking 600 on the door. So that's a big shift for us. So yes, we will keep our staffing for the coming year. We're really excited about that. That means we'll still have 5 kindergarten classes and 4 homerooms at every other grade level, 1st through 5th, and then keep our 2 pre-K classes as well. And we will hopefully get people to come on back and, start again with us.
Well, Vera will be back. So
Yay!
she's very excited.
That's awesome. I think I also forgot to mention, we did have our field days. So we just finished our final field day on last Friday. We had to do 3 of them to keep everybody socially distanced, but it was awesome. We did a pre-K K1 on Friday. We did 2nd and 3rd together, and 4th and 5th. And then we also had our annual 5th grade kickball game. They do a kickball game every year against the faculty and staff, and the teachers won again. The kids are demanding a rematch rather. But Mr. Crook said no. So 17
Look,
to
I just
1.
asked them. I said, "Do y'all really want to go that again?" That's all I asked. I mean,
Y'all couldn't at least mercy rule those poor kids 17-1.
Oh no, we play.
Y'all got like Nick Saban energy up there. Come on.
Man, you a cheater, dude. That's
You,
not even fair, man.
you got to remember, these kids have energy. They're playing against these old people. They need to come with it.
Look, if
They
you
feet not as big as Crooks, though.
Right?
look, if you
And they're
had
not as
heard for
tall.
2 weeks straight what I heard from my kids, my class, how they gonna beat us and stuff, you'd be wanting to whoop them too.
17-1, Crook. I mean, at least mercy rule it after 10.
They didn't want to give up. They kept going. All right. That was a big update, but again, it's the end of the year, and I wanted to make sure you had enough data and everything that's happening. I left in that co-chair update that election information. I actually meant to take it out, but there have been no additional changes. We do have our seats filled now, so we're excited about that. So again, we have Miss Moon will be joining us, and we're happy to have her. And we also have Miss Huff, a second grade teacher, who will be joining the LSGT team. LSGT. And we have some new parents that are rolling on. So hopefully we can get their contact information and welcome them as well. All right, Mr. Co-Chair, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I would just like to say thank you for my time on the LSGT. It's been fun. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been 4 great years.
Yeah, they've been kind of long, haven't they? Mr. Crook and Mr. Jordan have been here since we started this. Like when they first trained us on what an LSGT was, they have been here since the beginning, and we were all looking at each other going, "What is this?" So it's like now we know what we're doing. So thank you so much for your time and your dedication, because they could have rolled off a lot sooner, and they said, "Nope, we're gonna stay on. We're gonna stick it through." And they're actually being forced off now. So we really appreciate them, sticking it out, because it was hard to get this up and running. But I'm appreciative to both of them and to everyone that started the team. And I'm appreciative to you all for carrying it forward, because I tell everyone this is the best committee ever to work with. You guys are so awesome to work with. And the ideas that you share and come up with are just so wonderful, especially what you do for the kids. All right, Mr. Co-Chair, I'm going to let you take it away for the approval of the minutes.
Can we have a motion for the approval of the April?
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. I think I saw Cecilia's hand, but I heard Sarah. So we got a second from Cecilia and a third from Sarah. Do we have a motion to move for the minutes from May 17th? Nope. We don't need one. I'm sorry. Moving too forward, too fast.
April.
Yeah, I just approved the April minutes. Just asked for that approval. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Back to the chair and the wonderful principal, Dr. Worthy.
He's trying to take us through like he did the other week. All right. Is there anything that you guys have for discussion?
I just want to say how much I appreciate the work you put in and the fact that I can now read the minutes and the agenda. So thank you so much.
You are very welcome, and thank you. Thank you. Thank each of you. I appreciate you guys, because sitting here with me on 6 o'clock on any given day, you could be doing anything else. So I really appreciate you. All right. Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the group, I will get answers to those questions that we had and make sure I email that back to you. And again, I appreciate you being here. Ms. Moon, thank you for joining us tonight. You can see that this is an easy team to be a part of. It's probably going to be your favorite committee. And I'm going to consider this meeting adjourned at 6:46.
Thank you all.